This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Sean Preston.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today, we got a couple of really lovely neighbors on with us today, and that is Jasmine Botter and Lisette Gagne from Simcoe Muskoka Family Connexions. How are you, ladies?
Great.
Good, thank you.
Excited to be on. Thank you, Sean.
Really happy to have you on the show. We had a chance to meet at a BA5. That was a lot of fun. I felt like I was running around holding your hand, being like, hey, you got to meet this person. You got to meet this person. That was a lot of fun, eh?
It was my first one, so I really appreciated having you there. You were great.
So I remember my first ever BA5, and her name is Nina Dorian. She owns ISO Designs. She's an interior designer, and she did the exact same thing to me. And I remember those feelings of what it was all. I'm like, oh my God, she's just like, she's bringing me to all these people. So really happy that we were able to extend and return the favor back over to you guys.
Yeah, that's great that you get to kind of continue the tradition. Hopefully I'll be in a place one day with the chamber where I can too.
100% you will. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we had the chance to briefly chat, but for our listeners, they don't know. So why don't we dive right into it? And why don't you tell us a little bit about your business?
Absolutely. So Simcoe Muskoka Family Connexions is your local children's aid. And in Muskoka, we're a child and youth mental health provider. We promote the protection and well-being of children, youth, and families in the community. And some of the ways we do this is through fundraising and recruiting for foster care providers and volunteers. Our goal is to maintain the integrity of families, to keep children with their families. And this is where fundraising and recruitment come in a big way.
So can you kind of touch on, like, I'm playing, someone who maybe I don't know a whole lot about the charity. When you're talking about, recruitment and stuff like that, like, what does that look like? Can you elaborate on that a little bit for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So the main two areas we recruit are for foster care providers, which Lisette will be able to speak more to, and for volunteers for, oh my goodness, so many different needs throughout the agency. The biggest need is for volunteer drivers, helping kids get to their appointments, getting kids to school. And Lisette can fill in on the foster care provider piece.
We have a huge campaign for recruiting care providers. We do have a very large geographical location, so all of Simcoe and Muskoka. And so we try to do the best that we can to have foster parents and foster homes available across the jurisdiction. We want to be able to keep kids close to home so that they don't have to be placed outside of their home community.
And so are we specifically talking about children here, children that are in an environment that's toxic? It's an environment that's not conducive to their well-being. They're able to then come to your charity, to your place of business, where you guys will find the right fit and the right home so that they can not only continue going to school, continue living their life, but then obviously taking them and putting them into a much better situation, a safer situation for them.
We do, but one of the focus that we really want to pay attention to is they don't have to come into care as the first option. So one of the options that we really pay attention to is extended family, grandparents, aunts, uncles. First of all, keeping them in their family home. So what kind of supports can we put in the family home so that nobody has to be disrupted? Nobody needs to leave. So supports in the home is paramount. And then if that is not possible and somebody needs to be removed, then again, why not a stranger? We want them to go to their family members, people that they're familiar with and comfortable and who are there to support them. So if we're unable to find aunts, uncles, cousins, anybody who will be able to support the family, that's when we will do the best we can to match a home that will be able to care for the child and provide that safety while we continue to work with the family.
Okay. How does that typically come about? Like, especially we're talking about children here. It's, there's probably, a large degree of variation between ages. And I'm sure, the younger as well, How do they kind of seek out that help if something's going wrong? How do we know if there's something that's going wrong?
We'll get some referrals from the community. There is duty to report. So anybody in the community who suspects or thinks or is worried or concerned about the care or safety of a child, they're to call in and just share the situation with us. They don't have to determine if it is or not, but it's up to the agency to then question and look into it and investigate it and determine how we can best help and support the family. And so that's usually through schools or community members, community centers, anywhere where people see families and kids. If there's a worry and concern, then they're encouraged to call in.
Is that typically kind of how it comes about?
Go ahead.
Is that typically how it kind of comes about?
We will get referrals from the community. Yeah.
Okay. This is something that's, I'm curious cat, right? So I want to ask as many questions as you go through life, everybody's doing their own thing. They're focused on their job, that, there's these things that are happening that we don't necessarily know about it because we live in a busy world, but this is a real thing that happens. And so, happy that we can have you on the show and shed some light on this. Obviously being and doing what you do to offer the support, that's a really special thing. How did you ladies kind of get into doing what you're doing? What was the journey like?
Sure. So I can go first. I went to school for office administration, and I knew I always wanted to work for a nonprofit, but more so behind the scenes. So office administration was a great fit for that. And then in my work here, I was hired as a student on reception and filing, and I kind of fell into fundraising, I guess a little bit by accident, with a maternity leave I covered. If I ever had any free time, I would be applying for grants, and some of them were successful. So then it led to my current position as a full-time fund development and community partnerships coordinator.
Very cool. And what about you, Lisette?
Well, my parents were foster parents. So I grew up with foster sisters and foster brothers, and got to see firsthand how that side of the world works. And it led me into completing my university degree as a social worker. And I have been working for Children's Aid ever since, and going on my 32nd year of, and I would say primarily in foster care during that time.
Oh, good for you. That's a cool story. I ask this same question, right? Every show. And there's, I preface a little bit in saying sometimes you're kind of, what you're doing. I had a veterinarian on, and she knew when she was 14 that she wanted to do what she does. And for a lot of people, you don't hear it very often. They'll go on a path and then they, take a Larry, as I like to call it, or they get pulled or pushed into a different direction. They don't always necessarily set out on the same path when they started. But in this case, it seems to be a little bit more rare. And now we've got another one on the show that you've been doing that for a very, very long time. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So when it comes to the work that you ladies do out there every day, is there like any kind of misconceptions or any myths that you hear out there?
Yeah, so on my side in fundraising, since Children's Aid is a government mandated service and we're provincially funded, many think that essentials for families like groceries, clothing, diapers, beds, school supplies, those things are difficult to access when they're going through rough times, would also be funded by the government, but they're not. So those are all items that we need to fundraise for with the amazing community partnerships and generous community members to help us bridge that gap for families in the community.
Okay. And what about on your side there, Lisette?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the idea that coming into our care is first and foremost the priority. It has been made a huge difference for the experience for kids if they're able to go to their aunts, uncles, grandparents, and so on. So, and I think that the community is not always aware that we go to family first. before we would even consider bringing somebody in, just because of the disruption of school, family, friends, the neighborhood, everything that you're used to. Just being separated for family is traumatic enough that we'll do whatever we can to be able to lessen that trauma for kids, and then keeping them close to home, which is pretty much our campaign, is keeping kids close to home.
Well, that's important for them, especially, right? Their development, they're used to, a particular routine or a schedule, and trying to not disrupt that. That goes a long way, I would imagine.
Yes. It's as simple as your culture, your language, the food that you eat, the people that you interact with every day. To be taken out of that is difficult. And, dealing with whatever is going on in the family is difficult enough to begin with. We don't want to make it worse on anybody.
Well, speaking of difficult, nice little segue for us here. It's probably very difficult doing what you do every day because of the nature of what it is, right? Not to make particular comparisons, but there's certain jobs out there that you see a little bit more of the other side of life, or let's say being a firefighter, for example. You're running into burning buildings. It's more of a dangerous job. Or if you're a police officer, you're seeing the ugly side of life from that perspective, and dealing with traumatic issues and situations for children that aren't always ideal. How do you keep it positive? You guys do anything for fun to try to lighten the mood, or what do you ladies do to keep positive?
Absolutely. I always say that I work in the fun department here, doing fundraising.
The fun department. I like
that. Because we do get to do a lot of fun stuff, like building gift packages for children in foster care, or building care packages just for their everyday needs. One thing that I'm really excited about, because it's spring and summer again, is going out to community events and setting up our booth and just interacting with the community. We usually bring like little temporary tattoos and a spray bottle, some coloring sheets for the kids, and make it really fun. And it's just a great way to educate the community on our supports and our services, and to remind parents that they're not alone. Parenting's a big job, right? And we're here to help.
Yeah, I'm learning all about that. My significant other has a 17-year-old. She's very good, so she's making it easy on me, but learning all of that stuff at the present moment. So
yeah.
What about you, Lisette?
Well, in our department, we also try to put the fun in there as well. What we have an organization of foster family association. So it's a group of our foster families who get together, and they organize events throughout the year that will bring families together. So it might be something in winter, might be tobogganing or tubing. It might be a trampoline. It might be a laser tag day. There's a lot of activities throughout the summer, picnics even, so that it brings everybody together. So fostering is clearly a community event, and we want to meet that feeling of community. So we bring everybody together, support each other, provide that care and support, and that's through fun events. So we want to be able to bring that to our community as well.
You had me at laser tag.
Yeah.
That's
We're getting better at that.
I haven't done that in a little while too. That's going back on the bucket list. Love all of it. I'm trying to organize our community in the Outer Bluffs. I want to try to put together like a water balloon fight in August, and just get, all the community members together. Maybe that's something we can talk about on the other side, see if we can get you guys involved in something like that.
Perfect. Wonderful. Always open to new ideas.
Very cool.
For sure.
Well, I always say it's not what you know, it's who you know. And being more involved in the community and being connected to others, that's really where you get to make those extra connections and meet new people. And sometimes some pretty cool opportunities come from that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so doing what you ladies do on a day-to-day, I'm kind of rephrasing this question a little bit. There are definitely hardships and life challenge that these children are going through, and I wanted to see if maybe there was a couple examples that you could tell our listeners of some of these challenges that you see out there where you guys are making a difference and, you know, helping to overcome those, and maybe a couple of success stories for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we're all aware, Simcoe and Muskoka is growing. I actually checked the stats on the 2021 census for this question, but the Simcoe Muskoka area has grown by 60,000 people between 2016 and 2021. And I mean, that was 3 years ago now that the last census was done. So of course, as a result, our agency is also supporting more children, youth, and families in need in the area. And then there's the current economy adding to that as well. When I first started in that maternity leave, I mentioned our basic needs program, which provides all those things like grocery gift cards, clothing, school supplies to kids and families in need. We were receiving maybe 5, maybe on a busy week, 10 requests per week. But now it's 15 to 20 requests. And my colleague, Catherine, has just been a superstar at getting all of those filled every single week. So just a big need there. And we're more heavily relying on our volunteers for support with these programs because we are a very small department in fundraising here of 3, and we wear a lot of different hats as well. So volunteers have been really supportive, and the community too is we're all experiencing the effects of the economy. So a lot of community members are stepping up to donate what they can.
Very nice. We live in a pretty awesome community here. It's
We really do.
Something I've mentioned. I mention it fairly often on the show, but we, you know, if you live here, you know, you understand it, and people, I think they safeguard that. They keep it close to the chest because it is something that's really special. You don't really get that anywhere else. I'm pretty well traveled myself, not only in our province but across the country, and I never really have come across a community that is like the one that we have here in Berrien and Simcoe County.
Yeah, we do feel very supported by the community, and the work we do isn't possible without that generosity. So.
And what about you, Lisette?
Well, as I mentioned, our campaign being keeping kids close to home. So some of the heartache is, or the challenge is if we're not able to find the appropriate place for a child or youth in our community, unfortunately, they are being placed outside of our community. Some children are being placed as far away as Ottawa, Welland, Peterborough, and we really find that difficult to work with because we want to maintain that connection between children and family. We don't want them that far away. So the campaign being keeping kids close to home really hits, you know, to the heart, because we don't want them to have that separation. The community, as Jasmine mentioned, is very supportive of this, and a lot of families have stepped forward, knowing that, you know, they also want to play a part in keeping a family together and allowing children to stay close to their home school. You know, they get to stay in their class, you know, in their classroom. They get to see that graduation together with their friends. They get to keep that summer job. They get to play in their favorite park. They get to hang out with their families on the weekends and, you know, maybe play a board game with grandma after school. There's a lot of opportunities that connect kids to their family and will alleviate the stresses and pressures. And possibly the success story is they get to go home, you know, that we've had time to work with the family and provide the support that they need. A lot of families are under, you know, financial pressures. Housing is an issue. And once we're able to overcome some of those challenges, these kids get to go home. And that's really the greatest reward for anybody fostering children and youth. It's being able to see that reunification and the happiness of being able to bring a family together again.
That's really, really cool. A very special thing to be able to accomplish, overcoming some of those obstacles. So let me congratulate the both of you. Very, very cool. And it's so nice to hear, especially we just talked about how special this place is and where we live, to be able to allow the youth to to stay, and for our community members to step up to allow that to happen just kind of echoes everything that we were just talking about. So, okay, so what's one thing that you wish our listeners knew more about the agency?
In terms of fundraising, sometimes I get the feedback that some people think they have to give some grand amount to be able to make a difference, and really you don't. I mean, if everyone in the community was able to donate $5, imagine how big of an impact that would have, right? I mean, I'm reading a feedback piece that we received from a grandmother who's caring for their grandchild right now. And she's saying how thankful she was that our basic needs program was able to provide her grandson with winter boots and some clothes. Like, it's really just these small things that we give that make the biggest difference ever to those who are in need of a little bit of help.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, some people think like I could totally see where some people could kind of go astray with that, where they would feel bad to give $5 because they would feel like it's not enough, on the reality that if everybody just gave $5, it does a lot more, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy sometimes how people think, but let that be a reminder, right? Lisa?
In my department, what I really would want the community to know is that you don't have to own your home to foster. You don't have to, let me see. What we're looking for is, a variety of diverse community to match the kids and the children that we work with. We have a large geographical area, but also a lot of diversity in our area. And we want to be able to respect that with respect to culture and language. If you're a same-sex couple, if you're of different religions or faith or creed, there isn't one type. Anybody could apply to foster. You have space in your home. Every children has their own bedroom, and you have the willingness and heart to be able to learn, understand, and have compassion for the challenges that some families in our community have and face, and that you have the willingness to open your home and provide that help and support and work with us to be able to keep families together. And so I would say, please call.
And if anybody's listening who's interested in wanting to step forward to help within the community, whether it be on the fundraising side, whether it be on the foster care side, what's the best way that they could reach you, ladies?
Going through our website is kind of a great answer to that. We have a couple links that I don't know if maybe you can drop them in the show notes, but fosterconnections.ca is where you can get in touch to just learn more or inquire about fostering. For me, it's our website on the donations page, just to see what our current needs are at the moment. And in terms of volunteering, you can navigate to the volunteer page, and all of the current positions that are available are listed there as well. Okay.
Phenomenal. Yeah. Generally speaking, when they see the show, they'll have the links, the social handles, and we'll make sure that when we send this out, that's all going to be there for you. Lisette, is there anything you'd like to add?
Just thank you for giving us this opportunity, and we really look forward to hearing from the community next.
Very cool conversation. Love you ladies both. Phenomenal work that you guys are doing out there. Thank you very much for coming on the show, and looking forward to doing this down the line.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com, or call 705-413-3775.